Everyone. Welcome back to the Data Skills Story Show. For those of you who are watching, let us know where you're joining from. This is a bi weekly show where we help you transform your data skills and help you share your story with the world. That said, I am Lekna, and I've been in this data space for over 5 years now, currently working as a senior data governance analyst. And here with me is my co host, Raj. And Raj, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, this is Rajika Prabhakar, and I've been in the data field for about 7 years, and in the automation field much longer. I have a background in robotics and AI. Currently working as a director of data science and AI at a Fortune 500 company in US. And yeah, so my background is robotics, data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning.
Awesome. And today's topic is how to ensure stakeholders utilize our work for data science. And our guest for today is Divya Reddy. She is a senior data analyst at Electronic Arts. And I'm really excited to have her because she's been one of my really good friends in a very long time. And I'm excited to talk about the same topic and see what she has to share. So let's welcome our guest.
Hey everyone, I'm Divya. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm so delighted to talk to you guys again. I am a senior data analyst for Electronic Arts. I'm an enthusiastic leader who's passionate about mentoring. I live in Vancouver, Canada. I enjoy watching Formula One, going on walks, especially on sunny days like today in Vancouver. And I also enjoy going on hikes. A little bit about my background: I have an undergrad degree in information science and a master's degree from the US in management information systems. I've been working in the data space since 2015, so almost about 8 years now. I've always been a data analyst, a senior data analyst. Haven't really explored any other roles just yet, but a data scientist role has always intrigued me. So I'll definitely be looking at Raj for some more tips on how to transition to a data scientist role and see if I'm even a fit for that role. So I'm excited to be here and talk about, data and how to ensure the work that we're doing, helps different companies and make sure that we're adding value to them.
Mhm. Thank you. Thanks, Divya. So yeah, I think one of the most I think pretty much like every work has some pros and cons, right? So and I think being a data professional is making sure that people use our work, and that is one of the key things. Like it also tells you about the success of the project or like how we can even improve it. So let's
Mhm.
first try to understand what exactly is the problem and why is it a problem. So do you anyone want to go?
Yeah, maybe I can start off. One of the things I've experienced over the last 8 years in different teams is I make these amazing models or dashboards or reports where I've spent like 30, 40 hours just, putting it together. This does not include any time that I spend with my partner teams or my stakeholders trying to like understand what my processes are, how they're extracting data, how they're calculating everything in Excel. Excluding all of this time, just the amount of time I spent is about 40 hours. And then I've noticed that, like stakeholders still don't utilize what I've built. They still stick to their traditional methods of just building things out in Excel, which is fine. I'm not saying Excel is a bad tool or anything, but it's just, I don't know why there's a hesitation in adopting what we build where everything's so much more consistent. So, and this is not just like with one company, it's or with one team. This has been pretty consistent across multiple teams. And I know that some of my peers share the same experience as well. Suraj, I don't know if in the data science field, if you experience something similar, do you have any thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, definitely. So coming to specifically data science, I mean, this happens everywhere. The people who write software, which nobody would probably use. So it happens not just in data world, but it happens everywhere. But our topic of focus would be data science and data analytics for today. So focusing on data science, yes, there were a lot of things that early on that people were building um, didn't get deployed into production or didn't get used because fundamentally the problem was understood wrong. So that is one of the main reasons why someone uh, won't use it. If it's solving your problem, why wouldn't you use it, right? So if the business stakeholders have a problem and we are solving it and making it better, right, they will use it. So there is a disconnect in understanding the business problem. So a workaround that we have been using is we have a specific section or a step where we focus on the business requirements,
Mhm.
understand the business requirements before you start building anything. Before it was like, just give me some data, I'm going to start building models, I'm going to start training models. It's exciting work. Collecting business requirements is not that exciting, especially for a data scientist. So people would skip these steps and end up building something that nobody would use. So having good requirements to start with, understanding the problem very well, and seeing if this is the right way to solve that problem also makes a big difference. You don't want to be building a model if you can use an Excel file with some macros to do the same. You don't have to deploy a Python module with like Flask or Django and deploy it into a server. All that steps can be bypassed if you can do that in Excel. You should just do it. So don't build it for the sake of building it. Understand the requirements. Use the right tools to solve the problem rather than taking a hammer to all the problems or applying deep learning models to all the problems.
I absolutely 100% agree with what you said.
Yeah, and I think like as you like since the crowd here mostly is someone who's kind of transitioning to data, so I think like as you are just getting in like a professional, right? The first year at work, probably that's when it's like very critical to understand the business in order for you to solve the problem, right? Like if you don't understand and you just just trying to get what they want, I think there would be some errors and resistance for the stakeholders as well to use that work, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
um, to add on what both of you said, one of the things I've been like telling the DAs that I mentor is, being a data analyst is not just being a data analyst. You play a lot of business analyst role as well, and like Raj was saying, like understanding the problem that you're trying to solve is so important. Like
Mhm.
we have this in this I have this new opportunity to work with a new team, like build everything up from scratch, and one of the first things I've told my team is we need to figure out our requirements properly. Collecting user stories is one of the biggest steps in building a successful report. We spend so much time, first of all, we make our stakeholders give us a list of requirements, because in my past experience I've been in requirements meetings where people just show up without having given any thought to what question they want answered. They just show up and they're like, okay, so what are we discussing today, right? So to kind of address that gap, I think you know I've talked to my partner teams and we came to this understanding of saying, like, okay, first, how about you guys give us a set of requirements? And then the DA spends some time just understanding those requirements. Does it make sense? And then we all meet together and we discuss, okay, does this make sense? And then we figure out, which tool and is this even worth solving or whatever, right? Does it add actual value? So yeah, I completely agree with what the two of you said.
Mhm. Yeah, so for
Hmm.
those of you, a slight interjection here. So for those of you who are watching, just put in the chat where you're joining from, and we will answer all your questions at the end of the session. So if you have any questions, I know already see a question. So if you have any question, put it in the chat. We will come to your questions. Go ahead, Raj.
Yeah, so another point of view that I came across is I also manage data analysts, business analyst teams or business intelligence team who build dashboards and reports in my team. So what I've also noticed is we build dashboards for them and they still want the Excel report, like Divya was saying early on uh, when we started this discussion. She was saying they still want the Excel even though there's a beautiful dashboard which gives them exactly what they want. So one of the problems I have figured out or asked questions to business and try to find out the solution is they don't trust the dashboard enough because they can't see what's behind the dashboard. So you're saying this is the number, but how did you get to that number? So they're like, give me all the data. I will do the math. I trust my math skills and Excel skills. I'm going to write my own equation and figure out what this number should be. So they don't trust it. And that's been a big discussion in the industry as well. So just wanted to hear your thoughts, Divya and Legna. So what are your thoughts on bringing the trust factor into dashboards?
Yeah. I can take this on first and then I'll pass it on to Teka. So I know this has been a common thing across different teams in my company as well. So what we do is we have this section called is the frequently asked questions. So in that section, I basically address like first, what's the purpose of this dashboard? What's the intent, what it's trying to answer. And then I have like a list of definitions. These are the metrics. This is what it actually means, right? When I talk about averages or percentages, whatever, like a proper word description of the metric I'm showcasing in the dashboard. And I have a link to my user stories document, which also captures all the formulas, the data model, everything. So if my stakeholder has the appetite for the technical understanding of how the report is, built, what data sources I'm connecting to, the exact formulas I'm using, they just click on that link and it takes them to Confluence and they can see exactly everything the report is built from, extracting from everything. I understand this is a lot of overhead for the data analyst because this is additional work, right? And in spite of this, if stakeholders are not using, that's what becomes a problem. And convincing your DAs to stick to this process becomes very hard. So, but we've still been doing our best. We've still been trying to follow this process. And I don't know if stakeholders ever go into that document and look at it. I know they do, at least for the user stories. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, this is something that I've been doing.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good idea actually.
mhm.
Um, it definitely checks off more boxes or getting closer to actually getting the stakeholders to use the dashboards and trust it. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to add to that, I think I have two different ways to look at it. Probably the first one would be more so the trust, like building trust, is very human, right? So probably having, I know it's very dependent, like on a human, but it's like either assigning a data analyst to particular type of stakeholders, so that way they have that trust built within the team, and they even trust the numbers, right? Like, why don't someone trust the numbers? Because they don't know how they've done the math. So if they've already seen your work, it's easier to trust it. So having a set person to do that particular type of work probably might help build the trust for the stakeholders. So I think in like my role previously, we had set of data analysts who were assigned to a particular business type, and we literally knew the stakeholders. We knew what they liked to see, and we knew what like different color schemes they were okay with. We knew everything. So that helped us build the trust. So they were like, okay, we are okay to use these dashboards. So that was one way. And the other way, I think, when the way you were mentioning of FAQs, I just remembered of having some sort of a data cataloging tool that can also help you go see what type of data is there, And maybe since you're actually originally looking at the data, that way it will build that kind of a trust, is what I was thinking. I don't know what you think about that, but it just came out like I just got the idea.
No, trust is such an important
Yeah.
factor in a working environment, and yeah, it absolutely makes sense.
Mhm.
I forgot about the emotional connection there for a minute, but that's so important, especially if you're working in bigger teams, bigger companies. It's really important to build that relationship with stakeholders or your partner teams.
Mhm.
Absolutely, yeah. I agree with that. That's an important factor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And with respect to gaps, I also sometimes think that like I've spent like quite a bit of time trying to understand why our work is not getting utilized. And one of the other things I've also noticed is sometimes people don't understand how to interpret the dashboard or the
Mm,
story it's trying to tell, right? So
mhm,
oftentimes when we do stakeholder reviews or when we're presenting a dashboard, we have a nice way of going through, you know, we tell a nice story. Again, that's an important skill for a data analyst.
mhm,
And so that's there in your initial meeting that you roll out to your, in the first step of your rollout process, essentially, right? But after
mhm,
that, like people forget, or you're presenting to maybe two main stakeholders. What about other people that were not in that meeting but intend to use your dashboard? Ultimately, you
mhm,
want as many people in your org to be using your work, right?
mhm,
So one of the things that in at EA, what we do is we make rollout videos. So essentially what we do is we record ourselves, or we record the stakeholder meetings, review meetings, and we make like a quick 5 minute video which provides a walkthrough of the dashboard. We're saying that, hey, this is exactly what it's trying to answer. This is how you're going to interpret these visuals. Because I know as a DA, I love using fancy visuals, but that doesn't always make sense to the end user, right? The audience might not enjoy that as as much as it's fascinating for me to explore that new visual and make a very nice presentation out of it and whatever. But for the stakeholders, that might not make sense. So I've found that making these quick 5 minute, 10 minute walkthrough videos of the dashboard has been really helpful, especially when we have new people joining the team, and to onboard those new people and make sure that they still use our work. We can share this in their onboarding documents and say that, these are 5 dashboards that you need to start looking at because this is important. So that way, even if people are not in the original meetings, even if people leave the company and new ones get on board, you can share this. And so that way, you're also saving DA time. If you don't have that personal relationship, you can just share these videos and ask them to look at it. So that's one of the things that we do at EA. But do you guys have similar experiences?
I think that's a good, again, good tip, Divya. There, that's a good idea to have this recordings, screen recordings, and explaining the meeting. We do have meeting recordings, but they are not like concise. They usually go on with like all the questions, answers, and usually takes about 30 minutes. And it would have happened over a period of time. Um, so usually it doesn't end up happening like a concise video. But having a concise video and being putting that link on the dashboard uh, does have a lot of value. I see. Yeah.
Just all of this comes in the FAQ section. I know I used to
Hmm.
add, we used to actually add this FAQ section at like the last tab or the bottom of the report. But one of my POs, he was amazing. He's like, let's put it in the first. So it's on people's face and they don't miss this out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like in my previous role, I think right even right now, like one of the biggest thing is like you're so busy and involved in doing stuff that I mean, I have personally also created a lot of like knowledge materials where you just go look at videos, but at the end of the day, it's like hardly people look at it, and that's a whole different topic, I guess. Where you are actually making them to like look at it, go through it. I think that's a whole different thing. Like, do you have any maybe, like, other than putting it right out there on their face, but people still do ignore it. So yeah, that's a different
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, there's only so much we can do, right, to make sure they have everything they need to use it.
Hmm.
Mhm. Right. I
Yeah,
think there is the other strategy to get stakeholders to start using, or increase the odds of our work being used by stakeholders, is rapid prototyping or going agile, right? So you develop and deliver something, let's say every 2 weeks, every week, or every couple of days. Have a review meeting, get the stakeholders to see it, and get them to give you feedback instead of working for months, making the dashboard perfect the way you think, and then showing it to them. Instead, just bring them on as early as possible. That way, they're seeing the progression and make any changes, have any questions or concerns expressed, and build the right product that they can use. And yeah, that's an important paradigm shift as well. Industry is moving away from waterfall to agile or similar methodologies for execution of projects. I think that's a good way to ensure that work gets utilized. And there's definitely in my team we've seen that go up with more agile, having faster iterations. We used to spend like 6 months building a project and then show them something, uh, versus now we're like we first build all the plumbing, get everything going, build a proof of concept, month, 1.5 month, get it out to them, say start using it, tell me what you see. The model is not perfect, there's still scope for improvement, we'll continue to do it, but this is what you would see. Would you use it, not use it? Now instead of 6 months going waste, it'll be like maximum 1 month or 1.5 month goes waste. If they say this is absolutely not what we want, then we'll pivot. Most likely that's not the outcome. They would say, oh, this should work this way, or I'm also expecting these three outputs, or some modification to it. And that's why the agile comes into picture, right? So you plan out the next sprint and make those changes in the next sprint and go back to them. Um, you have any anecdotes or experience going from waterfall to agile, and does it even happen with like data analytics kind of work? Because they're much shorter
exactly.
in terms of time frame, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, I was onboarded onto this process. This was not something I implemented, but I know that DAs at my company at EA would have these design reviews. So basically, we would just have a mock up of how everything would look like and have a discussion with the stakeholder just to like ensure that the questions that they're asking is answered in the dashboard, right? So we technically take them through the user stories and be like, hey, this is user story one, and this is the visual that's answering it, and this is what we're trying to use to represent it. So that way, they when we do the final review with them or the rollout with them, they're mentally prepared of what to expect. And if something doesn't align with them, they can say it at the design review point itself. So that way, even the DAs are not spending this time, building everything out or having like five different versions of the report and asking them, hey, which one do you like more, right? So that gap there is addressed. But I 100% agree with you. I feel the more check ins we have with our stakeholders throughout the process, it's more valuable because it's a way to get them to invest in it too. Because, and the more feedback they provide, it also shows that there's more engagement, that, okay, it's promising that they would most likely use it going forward, right? So yeah, I'm usually very happy whenever stakeholders come back with feedback or come back with more user stories for my dashboard, because I know that that's one of the ways that they're engaging with it or they're using it more. So Yeah, that's been my experience. Lekna, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, when you're talking about when the stakeholders coming back with feedback, that'll be like the best thing. Otherwise, it's like you're just going about doing your own thing, and even though you ask for feedback and you don't get that, it's like I have no clue what I'm doing, right? So I think I have hit that block many times where, like, because the stakeholder requirements are like so vague, and even though you spend some time, sit with them, but they're like, yeah, just do this. It's fine, just do this. Like there's no other feedback apart from you suggesting something, and that's so important, right? For them to be so invested and having the regular meetings, I guess, is really really important. Yeah, yeah. And I think that comes to our almost at the end of sessions. Do you both have something else that you wanted to add, or the last few takeaways that you want to share with everyone?
I think I do have one final thought that I want to say. One of the projects or things that I've been passionate about is, trying to see if you can capture usage metrics on your reports and dashboards so that you have solid data on actually who's using it and how often it's been used. And you can take that data back to your stakeholders and say that, hey, I made this and I know you guys are not using it, and what's the problem? And Lekna, to your point, if you have that relationship with your stakeholder and you're comfortable to tell them that, hey, look, we spent 50 hours on this, that's 50 hours of DA time and 10, maybe 5 hours of your time. How can we improve this? So what's stopping you from using this with solid data, with the usage metrics? It adds more value
Hmm.
than just saying, if you go without any data to that conversation, you might get pushed back and say that, oh no, we're still using it, I think everything's going okay. So I think that's something that I've been working on, and having some of those difficult conversations myself. It's not easy, it's not awkward, and it's very awkward. And sometimes you also need your manager and your directors to step in and have those conversations with their peers and partner teams to sell this. But I think having data to back up data is a good idea.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, when it comes to reporting or dashboards, one tip I have is I mean, don't cram it. Don't put a lot of information. Then there's no point in giving all that. If the stakeholder needs to find the information they're looking for, um, there's no need for a business analyst or a data analyst. Our job in data space is to take this data and convert it into useful information that can be used by the stakeholders to make some decision. So when you're finding out what KPIs to use, if they're not giving you KPIs, think about what are the decisions they're going to make and use those to derive the KPIs. If there's nothing they would do if a KPI is going down or going up, then it doesn't matter if you show them that information or not, right? So if there's no action that they can take or they would take,
Yeah.
like having weather on the corner of this probably has no effect on how the business should be run unless you're in a state where there's a bad weather, everything shuts down. Only see if there is only things that would be useful, then only put it on the dashboard. Don't put everything. Don't put too many columns on the reports. Also, only put the necessary ones.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Don't make it overwhelming. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, 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 awesome. That was some great takeaways. And with that, I think the Data Skill Story Show is all about sharing your skills. And so, how, Divya, if I ask you this question, like, so what are the two skills that actually got you your current job?
That's a good question. I think strong communication skills.
Hmm.
That was one of the most important skill set for a data analyst. As I've been saying before, it's important to even put on that business analyst hat, and you need to be able to communicate your insights clearly to your stakeholders, talk through requirements properly. So I think that's one of the important skills that got me my job at EA. Second is collaboration skills as well, because it's important to share ideas, share thoughts, work together with your peers, your junior DAs on projects, and help each other out. So I would say communication and collaboration are two skills.
Mhm. Awesome. And what would you say, other than data, what else do you do? Do you have any hidden skills, hidden talents that you want to share?
Hidden skills and hidden talent. Ooh, that's interesting. Like tech related, or can
Anything.
it be?
It could be anything.
I can fall asleep instantly if you call that as a skill.
Oh,
So
that's
I know not everybody has that, but I
good.
can.
Yeah, that's a skill definitely I don't have. So yeah, awesome. All right, so now let's take some questions. Again, if you have any question, drop it in the chat box. So the first question here is, how can I break into IT? So someone's asking. So I think probably they might be from a very different background and that they want to just get into IT. So do you have any suggestions?
So I don't know if they mean the data space specifically,
Yeah,
because
let's keep it to data. Yeah,
um, I don't. First of all, I think it's important to understand, like, does this even excite you?
yeah.
Does do you think providing insights to business is exciting for you? Cleaning the data is exciting for you. Sometimes you don't really have, like, stakeholders don't come to you with exact questions. Do you enjoy the process of helping them understand what the question is? Are all of these things exciting to you? So if it is, then I would say Lekna has like a bunch of resources on how you can transition to this space, what skills are important. Things like learning SQL is very important. Communication, collaboration skills is important. So reporting skills are important. Like Raj was saying, don't fit 10 visuals in one page of your report. Only add in things that are actionable. Yeah, I would defer to Lekna and Raj and
Yeah.
any other ideas.
Yeah, I think to add to that again, like going back to what you said, just figure out if it's something that you really like doing. The I think the most like basic thing probably is like start working, like play some games. Like especially I tell this a lot. There are these apps that have these problem solving games to understand if you are a problem solver. So if you are not, and if you more are like people person, you like to talk to people, then probably business analytics would be for you. So try to understand what you like to do. I think that would be helpful even before you like take up a course that costs like I don't know hundreds of dollars. Just figure this thing out first. Raj, do you have anything?
No, I think you guys covered all the important stuff.
Mhm.
Let's go on to the next question.
Yes. So the next question is from Rohit. Is he's asking, with the advent of ChatGPT, will it be even more difficult to get the stakeholders to utilize our work? Very interesting question. I'm looking to change my career to data science, and I do use the help of ChatGPT.
Hmm. The ChatGPT that we know today, ChatGPT 3, I registered for ChatGPT 4. I haven't got a chance to play around. I was traveling. So um, at least 3 is not based on facts. It can make up things. So stakeholders cannot ask ChatGPT directly those questions. They will still need help from data analyst, or business analyst, etc. In future, let's say ChatGPT 5 or 10 in the future might gain access to all your company data, and there would be an option to probably for the stakeholders to directly ask the questions to ChatGPT and get answers or even get reports. Is that possible? Yes. That doesn't solve everything. The business is a complex system. There are people involved, a lot of people involved in business. Uh, so it's not easy for AI to figure things out. So there would definitely still be people involved, but anyone who is just making basic reports without understanding the business, anyone who's just making random visuals without paying attention to what visuals meet are best suited for visualizing certain kinds of metrics, uh, those kind of jobs would probably be jeopardized with the advent of ChatGPT. But right now, are we at that place? No. Can we be in that place in the future? Yes. Would we not require any BAs or DAs? I don't think we would be in that situation, but um, there's always more need for making sense of data. So we can all use ChatGPT to make things better.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you're missing out on things. So definitely use ChatGPT and other AI tools with a pinch of salt. Don't take that output with 100% confidence. Um, don't trust it completely yet.
Yeah.
That's my yeah, that's my thoughts on ChatGPT and the connecting to the discussion that we were having. What about Divya and Meghna? Do you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, to kind of add
Have
to
you guys used it?
what you said, Raj,
Mm-hmm.
like if we are at a point where stakeholders don't really trust the work that we are building for it, you know, it's going to take a lot more for the business to trust an AI tool, right? Because they don't have visibility into how it's calculating a specific metric. So yes, I agree with like use it to make your life easier, but don't just
Mm-hmm.
trust it blindly.
I have a contradiction that I heard recently about this ChatGPT. We were in a meeting and we were talking about ChatGPT, and they said a lot of people think they can trust ChatGPT over some random person they talk to because there couldn't be any hidden motives for ChatGPT. It is like if you're searching Wikipedia, there's no reason why Wikipedia should be biased and give you a different answer versus someone else. So ChatGPT is instantly having that kind of trust. It's a different kind of trust, right? Because it's not biased, it's not human, it doesn't have emotions, it doesn't know who is asking it. So they brought in that angle. I was not thinking in that lines, and I was like, wow, that's a different perspective altogether. Makes sense. Why do you think calculator could lie,
Yeah.
right? So people are thinking about these systems like that, and they might trust ChatGPT more.
Interesting.
I don't know. It's an open question.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
that's definitely
I wouldn't
interesting.
trust. Yeah.
No, yeah, interesting perspective. But I do think businesses are a little more complex because sometimes
Mm.
the underlying understanding that maybe not everything's captured, right? There
Mhm.
might be some nuances there, which even if you give access to your whole company, that
Mhm.
specific criteria might not be captured anyway, and we want to apply that. So I would still think we would still need a DA or a BA or a data scientist to add that extra flavor onto it and maybe have
Mhm.
ChatGPT do some of the work for you, but you still will need to, do some additional work. So I don't ever see ChatGPT completely like taking over or replacing data analysts. It's more like a tool that would help us. I would say it's a friend than an enemy at this
Mhm.
point.
Absolutely. Just like Google search, it's a
Yeah.
it's a better tool than Google search if it's
Yeah.
built out right. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
I
know
also think
Lakener was doing a lot of experiments with ChatGPT. I want to hear your insights.
Yeah. So I also Chat GPT. The other thing is like the more input that you give, it's going to learn from that. So how can you even trust a machine where I can type in some random gibberish and give it some wrong stuff, and it's going to learn from that. And probably if a stakeholder is like trying to see some visual and they want to see identify something, and it's going to literally provide whatever I had given, whatever inputs that I had given, right? So if it's
Mm-hmm.
wrong, I know it's wrong, but the stakeholder wouldn't know that, right? So how can they trust such a system? So that's another thing that that I was like thinking about when I was actually
Mm-hmm.
getting my hands on ChatGPT, because it's literally learning from what you're providing, the inputs that you're providing. So if you think about it in that way, like I would trust it very, very minimally. Just make sure, do your checks, research, and yeah, that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very, very great helper. Like if you want to quickly do something, quickly do some analysis or code, it's a very wonderful tool for that. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, I have my doubts on it.
Mm-hmm.
Sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This was a great session. Thank you so much, Divya, for you to come here and share your knowledge. And I'm sure everyone who watched this enjoyed it and got some value out of this session. Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining.
No, thank you so much for
Thanks,
having me.
Divya.
Always excited to talk to you guys and share more things about data. So thank
Mhm.
you.
Thank you so much.